Most people who volunteer for a condo or HOA board do so with good intentions and a limited understanding of what they've actually agreed to. Getting elected is usually the easy part. The training is often minimal, and the responsibilities are much broader than most people realize. This video is about what you actually agreed to and what protects you when things get hard. Here's the simplest way I've found to think about board service. Do the right thing for everybody except yourself, and trust that doing right for them is doing right for you. That's not a motivational poster. That's fiduciary duty. Duty of care, duty of loyalty, duty to act within your authority. Different terms, same basic idea. You're there to serve the interests of the community, not your own. That sounds straightforward until life shows up. Here's where the weight of that responsibility became real to me. At the building I led for 12 years, we had 2 basement units below street level. Jersey City has a combined sewer system. During heavy rain, stormwater and wastewater can overwhelm the system. When that happens, water comes back up through floor drains. One of those units belonged to a young woman, and during severe storms, she would stand in her apartment watching the water rise outside. She kept sandbags ready. She worried every time the forecast called for heavy rain. She was afraid. I couldn't rebuild the city's sewer system. I couldn't make the drains larger. I couldn't eliminate the risk entirely. But I could understand what was actually happening to her. I could listen. I could learn. I could work with the professionals around us. And I could help the board make the best decisions available to us. That's the job. Not solving every problem. Understanding what's real for the people who live there. And doing what you reasonably can. That's stewardship. And stewardship is what fiduciary duty looks like in practice. Now, let's talk about liability, because every board member eventually worries about it. That's normal. Directors and officer insurance exists exactly for that reason. It protects board members who act in good faith and within the scope of their authority. It doesn't protect self-dealing. It doesn't protect conflicts of interest, and it doesn't protect decisions made in bad faith. That distinction matters. As a former board president, I'm named in litigation involving the developer of the condo I led for 12 years. I've already spent 4 full days being deposed, and if the case proceeds to trial, I'll be called to testify. My legal fees are covered by the directors and officers policy we maintained. That's not a hypothetical example. That's exactly how the coverage is supposed to work. But the insurance policy isn't the most important protection board members have. The process is. Courts generally don't second-guess board decisions when 3 things are true. You acted in good faith, you asked reasonable questions, and you had a rational basis for your decisions. That's the business judgment rule. It's one of the most important concepts board members can understand because it means perfection isn't the standard. Process is. That's why meeting minutes matter. That's why vote records matter. That's why disclosing conflicts matter. That's why consulting professionals matters. Boards that can demonstrate they asked questions, reviewed information, disclosed conflicts, and followed their procedures are in a very different position than boards that can't. Not because they were always right, because they were responsible. That's the standard, not perfection, responsibility. Good faith, reasonable inquiry, a rational basis for the decisions you make. If you do those things, board service becomes much less intimidating. Not risk-free, nothing is, but much less intimidating, because you'll understand what your role actually is. The next video in this series covers 2 issues that are changing the responsibilities of boards across the country: structural integrity requirements and mortgage eligibility rules. The laws changed, the lending standards changed, and the expectations placed on boards changed with them. Many boards don't discover that until a sale falls through, an inspection identifies a problem, or a major repair can no longer be postponed. We'll talk about what those changes are, what boards are now expected to do, and why understanding them matters long before they become urgent. Subscribe for that video. And if you'd like to talk through where your board stands today, there's a link in the description.